files, right? So this is very important. Working with files and all, very key thing in the automation always. Remember, generally where we use Excel in real is Excel is mainly used for data parameterization and all. So when we are testing the application, we have to, no matter whether it's an automation or manual, right? So you need to apply a lot of test data in the application, lot of test data for almost for every functionality and every scenario, whatever you are executing, then you must have to apply a lot of test data, right? Then, so when you are doing manually and all, then you can store the data anywhere, wherever you want. But when you are doing in automation and all, then okay, data has to be placed in appropriate way, and then if the data is keep changing and all, there are two things always: hard coding the test data or parameterizing. Hard coding means we discussed in the beginning already. That means directly writing the data in the script. Instead of whatever the data that you are using, you directly write that data in the script. That's a hard coding. That will work out when the data is constant. That will work out when data is constant. That means if the data never gonna change. Okay. Now let's say, for example, in certain situations we are doing some SAP application. For one of the scenario, we take a lot of test cases in that. Then in the SAP, transaction codes and all will be there in SAP. Then those transaction codes will not be changed for the test case. When I say, okay, I need to create a material, when I need to create a material in SAP, then the transaction code must be started with MM01. Okay, you don't need to understand all these T codes and all. I'm just giving the example, that's it here. Then this T code is never going to change for material creation. Okay, it will be constant, not only now, not only tomorrow, lifetime it will be constant. So in such cases, you don't need to parameterize it because the value never gonna change for that. But if the T code also is keep changing, then if you directly write the transaction code name in the script, then every time whenever the T code gets changed, you need to go to the script and then you need to update it. Now let's take another scenarios here, another fields. Now I need to enter the material name, but material name I cannot enter same name every time. So every time I need to keep changing the material name, or probably the organization or the address details or the plant, right? So all this have to be keep changing every time. It's not constant values, those are. Then in such cases, if you hard code those values inside the script, what happens? For every time, for every execution, you have to open your script and then you need to update those values and then run it again. Got what I'm saying here? So this is the limitation, this is the drawback of hard coding the data. So in such cases, what we do is, for our convenient, then instead of storing the data, then what we do is, we will separate the test data from the script. All the test data will be separated from script, and we store the data in a user-friendly format. Okay, and then from there we can, by using script, we can read the data first and then we can pass the data into the field. Okay, so whatever the field that we need to pass into. So that's how it will be. Okay, so this is called parameterization, storing the data externally. But there are various ways that we do have, like there are a lot of data storage locations. You have the database, or you have the Excel, and you have XMLs, right? We are going to talk about XMLs little later. And even in the notepad also you can store some data, right? Or you can Word document also you can store and all. But what we prefer, and the tool will give some inbuilt options also to store the data and all. But what do we prefer in the real? Most of the times we prefer to Excel. Why? Because in the Excel it will be very easy for us. You can store n number of data sets in different rows. You can create multiple rows and you can write different combinations of data, and it will be, Excel is very user friendly, right? So you don't need to be a technical guy to understand the columns in the Excel and all, right? So tomorrow if a functional tester or if somebody who doesn't know anything about automation and all, if they want to execute the automation scripts, then okay, and if they are executing automation scripts, they want to execute with their own data. So that means they have to modify the data and all. So that it should be very friendly for them also to update the data. They should understand clearly. So that's the reason 90% or 95% we use Excel sheets to store the test data. Okay, so nearly 90% of the automation or test data will be stored in Excels. Okay, that's what I'm telling. So that is very key thing. this test data management and all key things. So in this process, what you are doing, okay, sometimes your script generates or your application generates some values, auto-generated values will be there. You need to capture the values from application, and then you need to pass that to the data files, because the same values I need to use it in some other scripts. The value which is generated in one flow, then probably I need to use. Now let's take another example here. I need to create a material, and then I need to create a sales order. Then the flow is like this. Okay, so in case for a sales order, I must have to add the material. Then only sales order will be generated. In this case, sometimes data might not be available. If the data is not available, all the materials whatever I have already used. So I need to create the material first. Whenever I create the material, then it will generate one material unique ID automatically. Okay, for every material, then unique ID will be generated. Then what I need to do? I need to capture that material, and then I need to store it. And then same material whatever was generated, I can use it in sales order creation script. So what I'm trying to say here is, sometimes application generates the values and all, then I need to store those values in one location, maybe Excel. Okay, so since we are talking about Excel, then we need to store that in Excel, and in other scripts I can read whatever the value. I store it in certain cell only, right, in the Excel under certain column. In another script, I can connect to the same Excel file and I can read it, whatever the data is stored. So what I'm trying to say here is, in certain situations, you have to update the Excels. Not only just reading every time, and you have to update the Excel files with the data. So sometimes we need to read the data, and sometimes we need to update the data in Excel and all. Got what I'm saying here? So this is what we need to learn now. So how we can write the data into the Excels, and how we can read the data. Or in certain situations, you might need to create new Excel files also. Now let's say I have a search result, I have search pane. When I have a search pane, I enter the keywords and I click on search. It displays certain results in the tabular format. Maybe the criteria depends on number of columns and you have selected customization. Then it displays certain data in the tabular format in the application. Then what I have to do, I need to take the data, complete a result set, whatever is result, I need to store it in the Excel, separate Excel file. Okay, you got. So I need to generate some Excel reports and all by using the data which is generated there. So in such cases, you need to create the new Excel. You need to create new Excel files and all. So not only with the existing files, you must have to create. Sometimes we have to create Excel files also. That should be our focus area too. One of our focus area. So ultimately, what we are trying to discuss here is how we can create new Excel files in case if the file is not there, and how we can write the data into the files which are created. Then how we can open the existing file, and how we can write the data into the existing file, or how we can read the data in existing file, from existing file. So all these things need to be learned. Then okay, first we will see with new file, how we can create a new file, and then how the data can be written. Okay, well, now remember, before you go with the script, we understand basic thing like how generally we create the Excel manually, and then how we can write the data, and we can do it. So whenever there are three things that you need to have, three hierarchy levels in the Excel always. First, you will be having the application, Excel application. So Excel application is nothing but this. Okay, so you will get the Excel application, blank Excel application. 1 minute. So this is just a blank Excel application. Then inside this, what you need to do is, you need to create a workbook. First, you need to open the Excel application, and inside Excel application, you need to create the workbook. Workbook is nothing but one file usually. So you need to create the workbook, and again every workbook will contain sheets. So you don't directly write the data in the workbook. We don't do that. Where we do, first we need to access particular sheet, or we can create a new sheet and then we need to write the data into that particular sheet. Got what I'm saying? That means first you have to open the Excel application. First you have to open the application and then you need to create a new workbook in the application, and then you need to select existing sheet or you can create a new sheet. And inside sheet also you directly don't write the data. Inside sheet, how this data and all will be stored, not in form of lines. In the notepad we said write line or write, but here how the data is being stored in the form of cells, right? So whatever the data that you want to write, you have to set the data into particular cell, not into particular line directly, right? So every cell will have an address. How can you refer a cell? By row number and column number. You can say first row first column, first row second column, first row third column, second row first column, second row fourth column, fifth, like that. So you have to refer the row number or you have to refer the column number to locate a particular cell. Got what I'm saying? Now once you write the data into that, what you do? You save that file. Once you save, then you can close the workbook and you can close the application. So ultimately what we try to do here is, first we open the application and then we create a new workbook in that, and then we select a particular sheet and then we will select a particular cell and then we write the data into that, and number of shells you can select, and then we can write the data one by one. And you need to save the file and then you need to close the file and then close the application. So this is the process, step-by-step process that we have done in the manual. Same thing how we can write the script for that step-by-step. So what is the first step here? Create an Excel application. So I mean, for Excel application, to work with the Excel application and all, then what they have done is they have created another class and another library, okay, for to work with. So it's not file system object is one of the library here, and then to work with the Excel, it's a different library that what we do have. And then how do we work with Excel? Is set Excel equals to, you can give any variable name there. Excel equals to create object Excel dot application. It's not case sensitive, even though I have written this as Excel. It's not case sensitive, you can give any case, no problem. Then Excel dot application. So what this does is, this will create the Excel application object. Then remember, when you create this Excel application object and all, by default it will run in invisible mode. The default is it runs in invisible mode. What you can do is, to make it as visible, you can say Excel dot, there is a property called a visible property, and you need to set this visible property to true. Okay. So Excel dot visible equals to true. So it will become visible. Then what we need to do is, next we need to add the workbook, where we need to add the application which whatever we have created. So this one creates the instance of the application first, and then inside this application we need to add the workbook. So take this application, whatever you have created, what I should do? I have to add the workbook, right? There is something called workbooks. So this is used to access the existing workbook, whatever is there in that application, or to add a new workbook. To add the workbook, so that Excel dot workbooks dot add. Then again, so we need to access the sheets inside this workbook, right? Whatever the workbook that we are creating, we need to access the sheets, and also to access those sheets inside it, then first you capture this workbook into a variable, so that by using that variable we can access this workbook every time, and then we can access the sheets. Then how do we do that? set OWB equals to oxl.workbooks.add. oxl.workbooks.add. So what this does? This will add the workbook. Then next, I have to access the sheet inside this workbook, right? Then there are two things here. Either I can add a new sheet and then work with that, or access the existing sheet. How do you do that? Workbook, not OXL this time, workbook only. We are accessing from this workbook. Workbook dot worksheets, workbook dot worksheets of, you must have to provide the sheet name, or you can also provide the number. Remember, when you are providing the sheet number, don't give any double quote. You can just say worksheets of 1, first sheet you are accessing. Or if you know the sheet name, you can give the name of the sheet. Not case sensitive. Sheet name is not case sensitive here. You can give any case, no problem. Then, since I need to work with this sheet, because all the cells and all there inside this sheet only, right? I am taking this into another variable. So what I'm doing there is, first, okay, I'm creating an Excel application. Let me write a comment here. Creating the instance of Excel application object, and then making the application visible here, adding a new workbook to the created sheet, and then accessing the sheet 1 from workbook which was added or created in previous step. You can also have an option to create the sheet. To create the sheet, what you can do is set, in say for example, okay, if you don't have the existing sheet or you want to work with a new sheet, then you can say OWOST equals to OWB.worksheets.add. In that workbook, worksheets.add means it will add a new worksheet. Okay, but for now we leave it, we work with existing sheet only. Okay, worksheets of so-and-so sheet name. Then what you need to do here inside this, you need to write the data, right? OST dot, how do you write the data? First you need to say particular cell, right? And then write the data into that particular, set the value into a particular cell. Then how do you do that? You say OST dot cells. Cells is used to access the cells inside the sheet of, you have to specify the row number and column number. So sheet dot cells of row number comma column. Remember, first one is referred to row always, and second one is always referred to column. Row number comma column number dot value, to set the value inside it, equal to like this. So like this, you know, if you have more values, you can loop it from first value to last value. Each value you can increase the row count. Okay, we will see that. But for now we are accessing only one cell. Cell of 1 comma 1 means first row, first column, dot value means set the value into that particular cell. Then once we do that, what should be next? We need to save that, right? We need to save, we have not given any path or anything there. So once the file is created and doing some changes, you must have to save it. Then to save it, you don't save that application, you save the workbook which is created. Always remember that we save the workbooks inside, not the application directly. Which is workbook here? OWB is the workbook here. Then OWB dot, you have two options here, save and save as. little difference between these two. Save and save as means, save is, you have an existing file already, you opened that file and you did some modifications. And when you save it, you don't give any path or anything there. You just, okay, from wherever you have opened, same file will be saved with the modifications, that's it. That's where save comes. And save as means, okay, this time you have created a new file or an existing file also. You need to make it as a separate copy. Remember, save doesn't accept a path, whereas save as does it. Okay, so whenever you create a new file or the existing file only, if you want to, after changes, you want to save it as a different copy, not the same copy, use save as. But when you say that, okay, I have opened an existing file, did some modifications, those changes have to be saved in the same file, then use save. So in this case, which is applicable here? Save as, not the save. Then use save as and give the path of the file where you need to save it. Give, I'll say save as. I'll create a folder called Excels here. Okay. Creating Excel file and writing data. And I will create in the same, I will save in the same path, okay, instead of saving in a different place. Then I will give it as sample file dot xls x, or you can give as an xls. Then what we have to do next, once we save it, we need to close that file, right? We don't close the sheet. Sheet we don't close. We save we close the workbook. So workbook dot close. Then we need to close that application also, right? So workbook we are closing, and Excel also we have to close it application. Then what is that Excel application here? Say OXL dot. Do we have any close method here? There is no close method available. See? There is no close method. Remember one thing, applications always quit, files always close. Applications always quit, we call it as. Excel.application, that's one application. Excel. Word is one application. Inside that file you open the files. PowerPoint is one application. Outlook is one application. Like this, the applications you open will be always, applications should quit, whereas files always close. Okay, so here workbook is a file, so we are closing it, but that OXL is not the file, it is an application, so it has to be quit. It has to be quit. So always, for every application, file should be inside. That workbook is a file, and even in the Word we call it as a document. In the Word we call it as document. Document has to be closed, whereas the Word application has to be quit always. You will understand that better. Okay, so after execution. Fine. Then let me do one thing. So let me run the whatever the code that we have written. Let us execute it. And Excels. You can see that is executed and the file has been created, but it went little faster, right? It went little faster, so you are not able to observe anything yet. But if you open this file, we said sheet 1 that 1 comma 1, right? Can you see in the first row, first column, the value has been set there. Okay, now let me do one thing. Let me delete this existing file and let us observe closely what happens. So what I will do is, in between each and every step that whatever we have written, we will use certain wait period so that you can understand better. Okay, every step should take little time. Then to give the wait period, what I'm doing is, I'll say wscript dot sleep. Then I will wait for 10 seconds between each and every step. And you can also, this by default it is sheet 1, right? And you have an option to change the name of the sheet. So once you access the sheet here, that sheet will come into the sheet, right? And to change the name of the sheet, you can say sheet dot name equals to sample, or any sheet name that you can provide. Okay, you can change the name of the sheet then. Right. Now let me execute this again, and you can observe it, what's happening. You can see this, a blank application is opened. This is what Excel.application meant for. It will wait for 10 seconds for every step. Now you can see workbook has been created. Now by default it's a sheet 1. Now the name has to be changed to sample. Okay, so it's waiting for 10 seconds because we have given that. You can see that sheet name has been changed to sample here. Then you can see first row, first value, first row, first column. It said the value. Now it is book1.excel. We have given as save, right? So you can see that file has been saved. You can see that name has been changed in that particular file. And then what it has to do, it has to close the workbook first. Yeah, so it closed the workbook, application is remain there, and then it has to quit the application. This is what application meant for. Inside one application you can open multiple workbooks, or you can add multiple workbooks. Done, closed. If you want to set the data in a different rows, you can change here. Or let's say for example I want to create a new sheet and then I want to add the data into that new sheet. Then what you do is, instead of accessing the particular sheet, what you can do is dot add. You say worksheets.add. What it does is, instead of accessing an existing sheet, it will create a new sheet. See, we'll see that again. That also. I'm deleting the existing file. Manually I'm deleting, but script should take care of it. Okay, or script should take care of, like, in case if the file already exists, then it should delete it and then create a new file. But I'm doing it manually. Later we will update the script with that. Fine. So application is created. Then workbook has been created. It should add the sheet. Oops, 1 minute. Did I save that file? I haven't saved the file. So it's executing old one only. Sorry. So I haven't saved that file, and then it has to close and it has to quit. So we need to re-execute that again. So let it get close. So I should have given less time. Instead of 10 seconds, I will give 5 seconds here. 5 seconds. Okay. Wait. Oops. So it should create a sheet now. For 10 seconds. You can see that the sheet has been created. So the data should be set into the sheet whatever is being. So like this you can create multiple sheets also, not only one sheet, you can create multiple sheets. By default, remember that the sheet whatever you are creating, that sheet will be created as a first sheet always. I mean, it will not create after the sheet. Manually when you do, the sheet will be added as a last sheet every time. But when you are creating the script, sheet will be created as a first sheet. If you create one more, then that will be created in the beginning always. But you have an option to move the sheet to the next last sheet, or in between the sheets also you can move. There are options. But we will discuss that in some time later. Okay, but clear this one? So what we have wrote here. So whenever if you want to create a new file and write the data into that, then what you do, first you create the Excel application. So this is for both, if you want to open an existing application or existing workbook or creating a new workbook. For both, Excel application must be created. That is the first thing. Second one is, okay, if you want to, by default that Excel will be it will run in invisible mode. If you want to see that, so I commented out that visible as true, right? Did I save that? Yeah. Okay, so visible as true I commented out. So you can see, I mean, no application is opened, but it's running process internally. If you want to see that, go to Task Manager and Excel.application process would have been there. You can see that Excel.application process is there. That means Excel process is running. Okay. So after some time, then once that is executed, that Excel process should be closed, or it is still there because earlier we stopped in between, is it? Yeah, it's closed. That's what quit meant for. Until unless quit is executed, then only it will close. That process will be closed. If you don't use quit and all, right, the process will be running. If you run that script for 10 times, 10 Excel processes will be created. That's the reason we have to quit always whenever you create a file. But if you see that the application is not opened at all, run in hidden mode. By default, it will run in hidden mode, and if you want to see how it is being created, whether the data is being updated or not, then you must have to make it as visible. By default, visible will be false, and you need to make it as true. That's it. Got? Then, so workbooks.add, or you also have an option to open it. Excel.application is common. You can open the workbook or add it, or you have an option to add multiple workbooks also, but not in one line. You can say OWB equals to workbooks.add, OWB1 equals to workbooks.add. You can add multiple workbooks. Each workbook should be taken into a different variable, not into the same variable. That we will see further. And then once you open the workbook, or once you create a workbook, then you have to create or open the, or access the, not open the sheet, access the particular sheet. How do you do that? So it's a workbook, whatever is created or opened, dot worksheets of name of the sheet, if you are using existing sheet. Or in case if you are using new sheet, then worksheets dot add. Then changing the name of the sheet is optional. Changing the name of the sheet is optional for you. And then if you want to update, write the data into a sheet, then you can't directly write into the sheet. First access the sheet, that particular sheet dot cells of row number comma column number. To access every cell, you need to provide the address of the cell. Address is defined based on the row number and column number. Specify that particular row number and column number dot value equals to so and so value, whatever you want. But in case if you say that I have 5 values or 6 values, loop it from first value to last value. It can be like this. For I equals to 1 to 5. If you want to store it in 5 different rows, you can. So I value will be, row value will be passed through counter variable here. First time I value starts with 1, right? 1 comma 1, 2 comma 1, 3 comma 1. Or if you want to say in one row, in 5 columns, 1 comma I you give. So like this you can store multiple values also. Then once you write the data, you should not forget to save it. You must have to save the file and then you close that workbook and then you quit that. So yeah. Yeah. By it will create a sheet 2 first. By default it will create a sheet 2 and then it will yeah. Where? This one, save as. No, save as, okay, sheet and file, this is workbook you are saving, right? While adding this workbook, we are not giving any path. Sheet is not related to this. Inside this only, we are changing the sheet and all. But even if you update small cell in any of the sheet, no problem, not only this sheet, any sheet if you update, entire file has to be saved, right? I'm not saving a sheet there. But sheet, since I need to store the data, I can store only inside the sheet. But individual sheet cannot be saved. So I am saving the workbook. Right? Entire workbook is being saved there. It's not related to name, sheet name. It's not just because I'm changing the sheet name and I'm saving it. Even though I don't save the change the sheet name, but I'm updating the values inside the cells and all, right? That has to be saved. Got? Save, I have the existing file, and in the existing file I need to write the data. This I don't want to create a new file with that changes, right? The existing existing file only has to be updated with the changes. That time I use save. So we will I will explain that tomorrow. So tomorrow we are going to work with the existing file, how we can get the data, or how we can open the existing file, how we can write the data into that, and how we can read the data from it. Yeah. Sheet cannot be closed. You can't close. You can delete. If you want, you can delete the sheet, but you can't close a particular sheet. Always remember, inside workbook, you can't save the individual sheet also. When you save the workbook, all the sheets will be automatically saved inside. So that's the reason. Individual sheet cannot be accessed directly. To access the sheet, first you access the workbook, and then within that you can access inside the workbook only you can access the sheet. Can you open that sheet individually, that only sheet one, without opening that application? Nowhere it's possible. Right? So here, you can't save, you can't open individual sheet, or you can't close individual sheet. But you can delete the sheets. After opening the workbook, you can delete it. Now say, after adding this worksheet, then OWB dot worksheets of sheet 1 is there, right? You can say delete. Dot delete means it will delete the sheet. You have an option to delete, but if that's not closing, you permanently deleting. Okay? So all these things we will see tomorrow. Okay? Clear? This one? Yeah. As soon as?
The sheet is marked. It must be deleted or it must be saved with another thing.
Sheet is modified, is it? It has to be saved. It has to be saved. That's it. It comes with your requirement. It's not only that. Okay. In certain situations, probably after creating a new sheet, existing sheet at a time only one sheet should be there. So in that case, after creating one sheet, another sheet you can delete it. Or if you say that okay, all the sheets can be there, then you just after creating a sheet, updating the data, you just save that workbook. You write your script depends on the requirement. What requirement? See, I can't say the same requirement for all the applications, right? In certain applications, okay, probably I have 10 sheets. 10 sheets of data will be uploaded. So in that case, I need to create all 10 sheets and all. So in certain cases, okay, I can just deal with the existing sheet. Only one set of data is there. It depends on the requirement, situation. Got? Wait is not applicable here. In the tool it is applicable, but wait is not there. Wait method in the VB script. Both are same. But where W script comes from VB script. Okay, it can be used only in VB script file, but tool doesn't support W script. So alternative method, that's it. That's an alternative method, that's it. Okay? Both are same. In the weight you give but seconds only. Since the tool doesn't support WScript object, they have defined one own method and they have given the name as weight. Okay?